Blake Shelton's performance of Stay Country or Die Tryin', live for the 2025 American Music Awards in a single block style, without bullet points, section numbers, or paragraph breaks per your request. The format will be free-flowing narrative journalism, like an unbroken editorial feature in a major music publication, capturing the raw energy, emotion, symbolism, performance details, and cultural impact of the moment. This will reflect the spirit of the performance, the song's lyrical grit, and Shelton's evolving place in modern country music. Here's the full piece in that format you requested. The lights dropped and the arena sank into a hush thick enough to slice through with a guitar string, and then a single whistle cut through the silence like a memory of a summer night, and the screen behind the stage exploded in a cascade of flames, barbed wire, and wheat fields. And that's when Blake Shelton walked into the frame, larger-than-life, dust on his boots, brim of his hat tipped low, a living, breathing country hymn for the modern world. And in that instant, before he even opened his mouth, the message was already clear. Stay country or die tryin' wasn't just a lyric anymore. It was a mantra, a war cry, a pledge to every listener who ever felt a little too rough around the edges for polished pop or too honest for something manufactured. The 2025 American Music Awards had its glitter and its gloss, but Blake Shelton brought something else, something raw-rooted and roaring. With every step he took across the stage, he carried a whole legacy on his back, not just his own, but the legacy of backroads, Saturday night bonfires, dusty denim, blue-collar love stories, tractor engines, and broken-in guitars. It was a performance that didn't just occupy the room. It transformed, it reshaped, it redrew the lines between genre and grit, between tradition and rebellion. And as he strummed that opening chord, it was like the ground beneath the arena shifted just a little, like somewhere in the rafters the ghosts of country music passed, nodded their approval, launched into a performance that was equal parts sermon and hoedown. His voice, not just singing but testifying, and you could feel the conviction in every word. Stay country or die tryin'. He wasn't kidding around. This wasn't about aesthetics. It was about ethos, about holding the line when the edges blur, about standing tall when the world leans soft and slick. The lyrics poured out like whiskey on vinyl, a mix of outlaw pride and gospel resolve. And somewhere in the back row, a kid in a flannel whispered along under his breath like a prayer or a promise. Shelton didn't perform, he embodied, and the band behind him drove the message home with thick bass lines, steel twangs, and fiddle runs that sounded like lightning in a bottle. The lighting was pulsing hot red and gold flames that kissed the edge of danger without burning it down. And all the while Shelton moved with the calm swagger of someone who didn't need to prove a thing, but was going to remind you anyway, not through ego, but through execution. Every note mattered, every beat landed. And the crowd knew they weren't just watching a country star, they were watching the beating heart of the genre in action. And yet, for all its fire and fury, there was tenderness there too, in the way he nodded to the fiddler during a solo or tipped his hat toward the camera during a quiet line, as if to say, yeah, we're still here, still doing this, still raising hell with a heart and a hand. This wasn't nostalgia, it wasn't a museum piece, it was alive, blazing forward, as Shelton sang about pickup trucks and county lines, and love that outlasts time, about dirt roads and stubborn pride, and the kind of loyalty that doesn't fit on a bumper sticker. The song didn't beg for understanding, it didn't plead for crossover appeal, it just told its truth, and let that be enough. And in a time when so much music tries to be everything for everyone, Shelton's refusal to dilute his roots felt almost radical. Stay country or die tryin' was not about drawing borders, but about drawing breath in a world that sometimes forgets where it came from. And as the bridge hit and the tempo dropped, the screen filled with images of old barns, rodeo soldiers in camo, small-town parades, and high school football games, and it was impossible not to feel it in your chest. The swell of pride, the ache of memory, the deep, bone-deep resonance of something real and unpolished. And then, with a grin, Shelton hit the final chorus like a freight train. The lights flared, the crowd rose, and a wall of sound crashed over the stage. The words "Stay country or die tryin" blazed behind him in roaring gold letters. And just for a moment, the glitz and glamour of the awards show gave way to something simpler, more honest, the sound of a truth that doesn't care whether it trends, just whether it lasts. And when the final chord rang out, it didn't feel like an ending, it felt like a beginning, like a line in the sand, like a reminder that country music, when it's done right, doesn't need to chase anything, it just needs to be. And as Shelton stood there, sweat on his brow, smile on his face, guitar in hand, he looked less like a man finishing a song and more like a prophet finishing a promise, and the crowd knew it, and the cameras caught it, and the country remembered it. And whether you grew up on a farm or just wish you had in that moment, Shelton made sure you felt it, not just the music, but the mission stay country or die trying wasn't a throwaway phrase. It was a revival, and every stomp on that stage was a sermon, every lyric a lantern in the dark. And when he finally tipped his hat to the crowd and walked off into the sidelight glow, he didn't need it in core. The point had already been made in neon and fiddle and soul: stay country or die trying, because anything less isn't living.